we do now?
You punch the dude. Violence! We're back to World War II!
Welcome to Mr. West's Basement, where we talk about random Euro topics. Today we're going to be talking about World War II. Rishi, do you want to start us out with the causes?
Yeah, well, basically very similar to World War I. Mania plus T are causes for World War II. Militarism, alliances, nationalism, imperialism, attack on Poland, and the T stands for...
Treaty of Versailles.
Oh, Treaty of Versailles. Okay, because I forgot that one, let me start with that one. The Treaty of Versailles was how World War I previously ended. And that treaty basically blamed Germany for all of World War I. And partially, yeah, Germany was a big portion to blame of World War I, but by placing that much blame in Germany, their nationalism and the fascism was able to come to rise in Germany, and that's why they were so motivated to fight, and that's what kind of caused World War II.
Yeah, and as for the rest of Mania, we see militarism, the buildup of lots of arms, and the overall military. We see that in Germany and Italy. They violate their agreement in the Treaty of Versailles by really doubling the amount of stuff they send in the army. They build a lot of tanks, build up their military, etc. Alliances, we see this once again. We see Japan, Italy, and Italy on one side versus everyone else. And nationalism, this is another big thing. This is what drives countries. This is what drives the people to participate in the war. Imperialism, certain countries want other countries' territories to build up their economy. And attack on Poland is part of appeasement. So,
Okay, so imperialism and the attack of Poland and also appeasement all go together. So obviously before this point, imperialism was okay for Europe because they didn't really conquer each other. It was just conquering foreign lands across past Europe. But at this point, Germany decided to take it a step further and just go invade Poland and other surrounding countries. But for some reason, the rest of Europe just let them do that at the beginning of it through appeasement. But obviously that didn't work. Do you want to continue?
So appeasement was basically when Germany would take over some form of land in Europe, and then Great Britain and some other would try to negotiate with Germany to stop this. And they would be as you can keep this land, but you can't take more land. Then Germany would take more land. And they would have the same agreement over and over again.
See,
and
if you think about it, Germany's power is like a toilet paper roll. They started all the toilet paper on, but all the toilet paper got taken off in World War I. Then they were just a roll. And then, because of appeasement, they were slowly able to build back that roll and have some power.
But they ended up with more power than what they started with.
The toilet paper roll was bigger than it actually started.
Alright. Should I go into technologies then?
Oh yeah, go on.
Okay. So another reason that this war was so big and so revolutionary was because of the new technologies. Just like in World War I, it was just after the Industrial Revolution, and it's just more and more and more innovation. Some of these included planes, submarines, tanks, chemical warfare being used, but the big one was, of course, the thing that ended the war in the atomic bomb. The U.S. essentially created this and then decided to use it on Japan in a civilian.
No, that's later. That's later.
We can talk about it. I'll give an overview now.
Later. So talking about the middle of the war. So the general overview of how battles and fronts were. So we talked about last time how there were mainly trenches. It was a total war. A lot of that stuff is still true in this war too. It's still mostly trench warfare. It was a total war. People were volunteering to really provide support in any way to the war cause. And we're helping the people fight and providing food for them. And some new stuff, obviously, with Manish was getting into. I'll let him talk about the atomic bomb and stuff.
Yeah, okay, so the atomic bomb came around during this time, and there was kind of a race to create it. It was between America and Europe as well, both powers. But America ended up being the ones that did create it first, and they unleashed it on Japan in civilian territory, something that really hadn't been done before to the level that it had. And it caused Japan to surrender. And on top of that, we had the whole D-Day event, which was when American troops were able to successfully take over, what harbor was it? Was it they took some harbor, do y'all remember?
They took a harbor.
They took a harbor, and they eventually, that was essentially the very turning point, the end of the war, which caused Germany to fall apart. And of course, Hitler also split his forces. He's decided to go after Russia which didn't work out for him because it caused the Soviets and the US to be on the same side, which is obviously something that you just do not want to happen, which caused the eventual downfall of Germany, Italy, and Japan.
So remember how in the last World War we talked about the Armenian genocide that was pretty bad? Yeah, this World War got a little worse. It leveled up. There was the Holocaust, which obviously in which the Jews, they like had these concentration camps where they took Jews and they put them there. They did like labor. They were like tortured and they basically till death until they were like saved later. And they were punished for this later after. When we get into the effects, the United Nations was formed, they went to court for it, and a lot of them were punished for it. But at the time, it was not great for the Jews, of course, as it would be for anyone, as it wouldn't be for any race, and they are being honored now in today's, when we recognize that it was something that should have been stopped earlier.
I think another important thing to mention is the fact that it's not just the Jewish people that were persecuted. It was just the Nazis thinking that they were like just supreme over literally everyone. That includes the Jewish people, that includes anyone that wasn't like white and had blue eyes was a big one, and then also like anyone that was disabled was also thrown into these camps. I think that's very important to remember. So dude, you want to talk about the effects of the war?
Yeah, so as we saw, there's a lot of new technology. This resulted in like a lot of cities being flattened, towns destroyed, and everything destroyed. So then for America, the economy was rejuvenated as the war effort led to like a rise in manufacturing and other goods. So their economy came back and recovered from the Great Depression. Another thing was the baby boom. As the war was over and no one had babies throughout the war. Then like afterwards, it just led to a huge spike. And then colonies got independence. After the World War.
For context, on our notes docs, they wrote Connie get independence.
Yeah, so a lot of colonies got their independence after the World War, as we saw like certain colonies like India or like South Africa, they sent troops and they were promised like independence afterwards. They never got the independence, but like it led to like independence movements afterwards.
Yeah, and also part of the reason that they were able to eventually secure the independence is that like Europe, like as Sidhu stated earlier, Europe kind of like died during the war. Even the people that won the war, like Britain and stuff, they still struggled afterwards, and so that led to a lot of their colonies, they having to like let them go, essentially.
And yeah, something important that's not mentioned here is that the United Nations was formed after this World War. This is kind of what was meant to like keep like balance, like they kind of decided after this World War, like probably the biggest cause of these world wars is like the alliances, like everyone's teaming up against each other. If we just had like one kind of like essentially like a government that regulates all of these different countries, everything would be fine. A problem that we saw later and we are continuing to see is that this United Nations doesn't really have any power. It doesn't have like a military or anything to keep these countries in check. But that's a problem for the future. And at the time, World War II seemed like a great idea, and it was relatively a good idea.
So yeah.
Let's do it again. Okay. That's better. Alright, we'll see you on the next episode of Mr. West Basement. Possibly the last episode of Mr. West Basement when we talk about... I forgot the next time. Oh, yeah, it's the 20th century changes.
Yeah. It was going to be like an overview of like all the episodes. Yeah.